rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending, presented by Bodyguards, protection for a life worth living. Learn more at bodyguards.com. There are several juicy, dare I say, rich storylines going into the BYU-Oregon game.
Yep.
Among those, another top 25 matchup for the Cougars. We already talked about the $1.1 million payout, so quite literally
Nice.
It's a rich storyline, Jarom, but there are several others. So what is the richest storyline for you heading into the BYU at Oregon game this weekend?
It's to see if BYU's legit, Spence, because BYU's won this game at home before. Top 10, not as much, right? But if BYU beats Baylor at home and then goes to Oregon and wins, the playoff conversation gets hot and heavy. Some people have mentioned, as we've discussed off air, that, hey, that was like Cincinnati's win against Notre Dame last year. Well, Cincinnati's didn't play the schedule that BYU's playing this year. Certainly it's tough. I still see, as good as this team is, a couple of losses on this schedule, Spencer. I'm excited about where BYU could go. Maybe it is a special season where you can go undefeated or one loss. Historically, that's really tough. BYU's never played a schedule like this and had 0 or 1 losses. Maybe this is the year BYU breaks out. But at Oregon is the next test, if you can win that game, you are super legit and everyone's talking about you. A lot of people are talking about BYU, which we'll get to later with Kirk Herbstreit and RG3, of course. But that's the biggest storyline. Can BYU do it again? Can BYU beat another top 25 team, another name brand, and be at the forefront of the conversation in college football?
Yeah, for me, the biggest storyline is something that we brought up for a moment yesterday, and that is, can BYU continue to break out of these little slumps or funks that we've brought up as they've gone into these games? Oh, there was the Florida curse, right? Going 2 time zones, open up the season's never been good for BYU.
Play worst teams in Florida.
BYU, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Week 3's been weird for BYU.
Yep.
And especially on the road. Can BYU come off of an emotional high against Baylor, where they had to expend a ton of energy, went to double overtime, super late game? Can they reset and get rid of this Week 3 weird, if people are going to call, they're going to call it curse, whatever, okay? Like, oh, they don't play well in Week 3, especially on the road. It's not going to be well. Can BYU break out of that? Okay, so I'm watching that. How do the Cougars look, especially early in the game? Do they start slow, or can they start fast? Against Baylor, BYU looked to start fast, put up a field goal, but then the rest of the half did basically nothing until Chase Roberts caught that touchdown. I feel like BYU is going to need to put up more than 10 points in the first half if they want to beat Oregon, just because of how Oregon's offense is structured and how fast they move the ball. And Oregon wants to move with some pace, which is different than Baylor, right? So for me, it's, can BYU break the funk of Week 3 on the road and do so in a scenario where there is some pressure and there's added luster on the team and whatnot? So, well, Kingsley is a fun storyline, and, you know, I can tell you what fans are caring about more than anything, and that is the Pac-12 scenario. Like, oh, man, we got to maintain this 6-0 over the Pac-12 with Jaron Hall as the starting quarterback.
Let's go!
The Pac-12 championship storyline continues.
Yep.
Like, fans are absolutely wrapped up in that. And there's Utah fans are praying that BYU loses to Oregon this weekend so that they don't have to listen to that narrative anymore.
I really want BYU to beat Oregon for a million reasons, one of which is then we can say, was it even hard? Utah did it twice last year, you know? But, hey, at Oregon is a tough game. Utah didn't have to play Oregon in Eugene last year, by the way. It was home, was it not? And then it was Vegas. So, okay, Week 3. Last year, coming off of the Utah game, BYU responded really well in Week 3. Granted, it was at home.
Yeah,
it wasn't at Oregon.
Different scenario.
But ranked team Week 3 last year, Pac-12, BYU won that game over Arizona State. Did it require the second greatest defensive play in BYU history, perhaps, from Tyler Algier? I think so. Yeah. Kyle Morrell, 84, of course, Hawaii being the first. Okay, other ones that are interesting. Don't forget, this is rare. I haven't looked to see the situation, but when's the last time BYU played an afternoon game on the West Coast? National TV, Fox. This is big time. Like, this is a huge game for BYU being featured in that way. Other things of note. Kingsley Suamataia has coached against Oregon quite a bit. Don't forget, at Utah, he was the DC. They played Oregon several times. He was at Oregon State. His last game coaching at Oregon State was against the Ducks in the Civil War. He's been there, done that quite a bit, right? Also, the Orem High guys unite. Noah Sewell with the Ducks, with Kingsley, Puka, Jacob Robinson, and Ethan Slade. Guys that won multiple state championships at Orem. A bunch for BYU, now against Noah Sewell. Other ones of note. Kingsley Suamataia, don't forget, we haven't mentioned this yet, interviewed for the Oregon job.
Oh, I haven't forgotten.
Last year. What did it do? It got him a raise at Brigham Young University. And, of course, the series history. 3-3 tied up. Last time BYU played in Eugene, 90, tied Etmer. BYU loses 89. Epic matchup, which, by the way, I haven't verified this, but I read one article that said the 900-plus yards that Bill Musgrave and Ty Detmer combined for in 89 in Provo, the most in NCAA history at the time. Don't forget, the last meeting for these two teams was in the Vegas Bowl. I ran Parab for ESPN. That's how long ago it's been. And BYU won by 30. And in the series history, notably 3-3, the point differential is Oregon by 1.
Yep.
How about that? So this is way, last night I tweeted it out, I was like, this is way richer in storylines, pun intended, than I ever imagined BYU and Oregon could be. Obviously, Kingsley playing his old team. He said he's got cousins, brothers, but these are his brothers now in blue. And BYU's on a mission to go in there. And I wonder, Spence, if BYU can, like you said, start fast. And I expect the run game, and Christopher Brooks, who has played against Oregon. I watched Christopher Brooks play for Cal against Oregon in 2019. I just realized that will be BYU's quarterback in a couple years. Can they overcome the hostile crowd in Autzen, which, by the way, we're told there are 2,200 tickets available.
Yep.
Students don't start the semester until the 27th, apparently in Eugene. So
go buy tickets if you're close to Eugene. Anywhere near Port, please go buy tickets if you're close to Eugene.
503 is going to show up in this game. Watch, like you'll be there. The 503 BYU fan base will be there. It's going to be awesome.
Maybe we've overlooked the biggest storyline, Jarom. And that is that BYU is an underdog. BYU, as the 12th ranked team in the country, is a 4-point underdog, and maybe that's going to grow to even more going to Autzen. Why? Why is BYU an underdog? Is home field for the Oregon Ducks worth that much? And do people know something that we don't? Are they buying in on...
What are they buying into? Yes.
BYU hasn't played well early in the season against Pac-12 schools on the road. Perhaps that's a storyline. How much is Autzen Stadium's atmosphere worth, especially if the students don't start classes until the 27th? Like, why?
They'll be there. The students will be there. It's whether the rest of the stadium will be there.
Why is BYU an underdog? I feel like that's a huge storyline.
It's a good question. 20 straight home games, won, third longest streak in the country. 29 straight non-conference home.
There you go.
Streak. That's a big deal.
Therein lies the answer.
That's a big deal.
Therein lies the answer for those people that are looking at just tradition and histories and all of the little things that go into preparing for a matchup. That right there. Okay. So you answered the question. Straight up. That is why BYU was on Oregon at home is really tough to beat. 29 consecutive non-conference wins at Autzen Stadium.
Now, remember last year, Oregon shot up the polls into the top 10 after they went to Columbus and won. So the Utah win over Oregon at the time was a big deal. And then later it's like, well, Oregon kind of faded at the end of the year. Oregon went to Stanford and lost. Like, Oregon's capable of losing this game. But so is BYU. BYU certainly got to show up and go get this. But I believe that BYU is going to be able to run the ball in a way that they couldn't against Baylor. I think that's as bad as it gets for the BYU run game all year. I think BYU is going to be able to establish the run. Remember that Jaron Hall is a confident dude against almost, anybody. Because, like we said yesterday, he's 7-1 versus P5. It's like, what scenario is Jaron walking into where he goes, you know what, I don't think I have it or we have it today. No. This is the most confident, best leader BYU's had in a while. Like, he's waited 3 years to get his chance last year, really responded, played through rib injuries in multiple games, even played after he was still hurt and had to come back early because Baylor Romney was injured. Now he walks into another validating moment where a guy that recruited him, Ty Detmer, is last loss for BYU there. There's some vengeance for BYU to go into Eugene and avenge that game from 1990. The stakes are high. He knows the ranking is poison, as he told me in the film room. I think BYU is really prepared for any challenge they have this year, which are many. Notre Dame in Vegas, Arkansas at home, at Boise State, where BYU's only won once. Sneaky games at Liberty, even East Carolina at home, as you've mentioned, sneakier with how they played against NC State and so on. This team's prepared to show up, just like they did on Saturday. But that wasn't a one-off to me. That wasn't we get up for this game, but we don't get up for that game. I think this will continue to validate the Baylor win if BYU goes in in there and win. Because if you're really good, you go on the road and you win.
Yeah, but even if you lose, again, depending on how BYU plays the game, what if Oregon kicks a field goal last play of the game and they beat BYU? If all of a sudden is BYU not legit?
Respectable loss.
Right, is BYU, no, like BYU is still legitimate. It stings, it hurts, it kind of takes away a big part of BYU being in the true national college football playoff conversation, because that will start if BYU beats Oregon.
Right. And
whether you want it or not, that's going to start.
Is the playoff the end game? To me, no. The realistic end game is a New Year's Six possibility. You got to have one loss or no losses. But I would take 10-2 in the regular season. I really would. That'd be incredible.
Okay, Oregon home field, historic week 3 struggles on the road for BYU, road game after an exhausting win. Your point is you feel like this BYU team is mature enough to handle these things that maybe some other BYU teams or other college football teams could not handle.
The most prepared BYU team perhaps in history, Spence. That has to do with a couple of things. COVID is a big deal. This is the most experienced BYU team ever in terms of literally having gone through the fire. No group of BYU players has played a consecutive tougher schedule in their careers. Think about what Jarom has seen since 2018 as a player. The fires that he's been in as a backup, and then last year as a starter, winning more P5s games with BYU as a team than they ever have in a single year, 6-1. Obviously, when you're in the WAC in the Mountain West, you don't play the number of these P5s. And not all P5s are created equal. When you beat Arizona, that's not as big of a win as when you win at Boise State in 2020. That's a bigger win. And when you beat Utah State in 2012, they finished ranked 16th.
Sure.
That's a huge win against a team that's in the WAC at the time, I think, right? So this team's prepared to show up, compete, and pull off an upset. That feels weird to say as the number 12 team in the country, but Vegas says it is.
Oh, here's the other thing that experts may not be aware of because they're banking on maybe Puka Nacua not playing. Guess what? If Puka Nacua is back and playing for BYU, you can wipe that 4-point underdog scenario right off the board.
You feel he's worth 4 points?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Because
in the NFL, that'd be a huge number for a non-quarterback.
Because of his decoy ability. Like, you want to talk about BYU being able to run the ball?
The jet sweep.
Throw Puka Nacua, exactly, on the jet sweep, or just throw him out there, double team him, and guess what? You have to account for him, and that opens up everything else.
Including brother Chase Roberts.
Yes. Puka Nacua's back in, you just make it even. Like coin flip game.
Well, at that point, it's almost BYU +3 if home fields were 3. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if it's even, that means BYU's got the advantage.